Hi, I'm Dr. Pranjal Bantia, and I'll be discussing some questions from the October 2024 paper. So, as we all know, DND is not not only a lengthy paper, but it's also a kind of difficult one. So, I have started my discussion with this important question. I'll share my screen with you. Is the screen visible to you all?
Yes,
So,
yes,
okay. So, a question was asked in this October 2024 Part 2 paper, which was a clinical paper, about a 48-year-old female with a 6 centimeter hard lump, which was fixed to the breast tissue in upper inner quadrant of left breast with level 1 and 2 axillary lymphadenopathy. They asked us to describe the evaluation and management of this patient. So, we should remember that such kind of clinical question should be framed in 4 parts. First would be reaching up to a diagnosis. Second would be workup for that patient. The third part should include the treatment, and the fourth important part should be the follow-up and surveillance. So, starting with the first part, treat it as if this patient has come to your OPD, what all investigation will you offer to such a patient? So, we all know that for any kind of breast pathology or a breast symptom, we usually go with triple assessment. So this triple assessment basically consists of 3 things. One is the clinical examination. So we have the clinical details of these patients. The second would be the radiological examination. And the third important one would be the tissue sampling or the tissue diagnosis. So in this question, we have a 48-year-old female patient with a lump in left breast. And the physical examination reveals a 6 centimeter hard mass in the upper inner quadrant of the left breast, along with level 1 and 2 axillary lymphadenopathy. So this looks like a case of a breast carcinoma. So our second thing would be to go for a radiological examination. In radiological examination, the first radiological examination we are going to offer would be a digital mammogram with tomosynthesis. Tomosynthesis is nothing but a multiplanar imaging of the mammogram. So it gives us a 3D view of the entire breast. The entire breast tissue is cut into multiple slices, 1 mm thick, just like a CT scan. So it has got a better delineation. The second set of radiological investigation that we are going to offer would be a ultrasound. So why ultrasound is important? It has got 2 functions. First, it can help us to guide biopsies. And second important would be axillary lymph node staging. So we already know that the lymph nodes are matted, but this is going to help us to evaluate the lymph nodes. Second important thing would be it also help us to get an axillary lymph node biopsy. What would be the significance of that? I will be discussing this in the treatment section. The third would be the tissue diagnosis. So how we are going to obtain the tissue for a diagnosis? So the answer to that would be a core needle biopsy. With a core needle biopsy gun, which we commonly call as the true cut gun. A 14 gauge gun is used and at least 4 cores are obtained. Along with the core needle biopsy of the primary tissue, we should also go for axillary lymph node sampling through ultrasound guided FNA. So this is basically a diagnostic workup. We all know that this looks like a case of breast carcinoma. So once the biopsy will come, what all things we should look in the pathology report? First and foremost, we should look on the histological type, whether it is a carcinoma or not, and if it is a carcinoma, what type it is. So for discussion purpose, we take it as infiltrating ductal carcinoma, not otherwise specified, which is the most common thing. Second would be the grade, which we call as the Nottingham grade. See, for TNM staging of breast carcinoma, we need to have 5 things. One is the T, second is N, third is M, fourth is the G, that is the grade, and fifth would be the receptor status. So it could be grade 1 to grade 3. The third important thing would be the receptor status. In receptor status, we need to look for three things. One is ER, PR, and HER2. So ER-PR status positive is considered when the Eldred score is more than 3. The score is out of 8, and the score is 3 or more than 3, it is considered to be a positive. And for HER2, either the IHC should be 3 positive or it should be FISH amplified. And fourth important thing would be the Ki67. So Ki67 is an indicator, a proliferative indicator of the tumor. More Ki67 means highly proliferative tumor it is. It helps us to divide luminal into luminal type A and type B. The value is quite arbitrary. Some centers say it is 20%, some centers take 14% as a cutoff. Tata Memorial and our institute aims usually take 14% as a cutoff, so it is a safe value. Tumor with less than 14% of Ki67, which are ER-PR positive and HER2 negative, are considered to be luminal A subtype. Those with Ki67 more than 14% and are ER-PR positive and HER2 negative are considered to be luminal B subtype. So this pathological grading and everything gives us a diagnosis of CA breast, CA left breast. So what would be the clinical staging of this thing? Clinically, it is a T3 tumor. Remember that it is a 6 centimeter tumor, so it would be anything more than T3. And the second important point in the question was that it is fixed to breast tissue. They haven't said that it is fixed to the breast wall, that is the chest wall. So fixity to the breast tissue is not T4. It is only a T3 disease. If they had mentioned that it is fixed to the chest wall, then we would have considered it to be a T4 disease. So for the discussion purpose, we are going to take it as a CT3 disease. For the end staging, they have mentioned that they have meted axillary level 1 and level 2 lymph nodes. So this could be anything but N2. So it could be N2A. We don't have imaging to comment upon the internal mammary lymph nodes, but from the information given to us in the question, it would be a N2A disease. Now what is left is the M. So the first part, which was the diagnosis part, is covered. The second part would be the workup for this patient to look for the M staging so that we can clinically stage this patient. So for a patient with T3 N2A disease, the investigation of choice in such a scenario would be FDG PET-CT whole body scan. If they ask for any alternatives, then alternative would be a CCT, chest, abdomen, pelvis, and along with a bone scan. So this will give us the metastasis or the M workup. Now finally, we are going to have the clinical stage, that would be T3 N2A. Remember to write C over here. C T3, C N2A, and C M0. Okay. So what would be the stage of the patient? So the staging of the patient, I have already mentioned, also depends on the grade and the tumor subtype. If it turns out to be a HER2 positive disease, it could either be stage 1B or stage 2A or stage 2B. But if it is any other subtype, the staging would be stage 3. See, it is a bit difficult to remember, but if it is a T3 disease and N2 disease, for all discussion purpose, we are going to keep it stage 3 only. Because the TNM staging along with grade and the receptor status is quite difficult to learn. So just remember, if it is an N2 disease, considered to be a stage 3 disease. So a stage 3 CT3N2AM0 would be a locally advanced breast carcinoma. So coming to the third part, that is the treatment for this patient. So in the treatment, the algorithm would be go for a neoadjuvant chemotherapy, followed by surgery, followed by adjuvant therapy and post-operative RT. Talking about neoadjuvant chemotherapy, why do we need a neoadjuvant chemotherapy? The rationale being it is already a locally advanced disease. So we need to address the systemic disease first and then the local disease. So what would be the chemotherapy regimen? Again, it is going to depend upon the subtype. So if it is a luminal subtype, the chemotherapy of choice would be adriamycin, cyclophosphamide and paclitaxel. So the standard regimen is that we give 4 cycles of adriamycin, cyclophosphamide followed by 4 cycles of paclitaxel. T here is paclitaxel, A is adriamycin and C is cyclophosphamide. Now, if it is a HER2 positive disease, what would be the regimen? So there are multiple regimens available for each subtype. We are only going to learn what are the standard regimens, those having a class 1 evidence behind them. So for HER2 positive, it would be 6 cycles of TCHP. So what is TCHP? T is docetaxel over here. C is your carboplatin. H is your trastuzumab. And P is your pertuzumab. Now, the third type is triple negative breast cancer, which is ERPR negative and HER2 negative. The chemotherapy regimen in this would be, now with a class 1 evidence, is pembrolizumab with 4 cycles of TC, that is paclitaxel and carboplatin, followed by pembrolizumab and 4 cycles of AC. Here C is not carboplatin. Here C is again cyclophosphamide. A stands for adriamycin. So this is the neoadjuvant chemotherapy. So after giving the neoadjuvant chemotherapy, we need to assess the response. So response assessment could either be a clinical response assessment or which can be based on clinical evaluation, both by clinical palpation or imaging, or it could be MRI based, that is which is used in RECIST criteria. But here for discussion purpose, we are going to keep it as clinical examination. We are going to examine the breast either clinically or with the help of imaging, and also the axilla. The second part after neoadjuvant chemotherapy and after response assessment would be surgery. So second part would be in the treatment section would be the surgical planning. So here we need to understand that we are going to treat two entities. One is the breast and second is the axilla. So first talking about breast, what treatment options are available to us? See, it was a CT3 disease. It might happen that following NSAT, there might be a good response, there might be reduction in the size, and you can offer the patient breast conservation surgery. Other alternative would be mastectomy. So, breast conservation surgery can be advised in this patient if there is a good tumor-breast ratio, which means the tumor size has reduced considerably for a good oncoplastic reconstruction. The second important indication would be there is absence of multicentricity. And third important, that is, there is no contraindication to radiation therapy. Do remember that all breast conservation surgery patients will get at post-operative radiation therapy. So it is important patient having any contraindication to radiation therapy should be very selective in getting breast conservation surgery. So the important concept in BCS would be the reconstruction. Remember that upper inner quadrant defects are very difficult to reconstruct and we have very limited options for them. So we can offer type 1 oncoplasty. In type 1 oncoplasty, we can go for a modified matrix rotation. So type 1 oncoplasty is basically a volume replacement surgery. The type 2 oncoplasty is a volume displacement surgery in which we have one option, that is the LICAP flap. LICAP stands for lateral intercostal artery perforator flap. So these are two flaps that these are two reconstruction options that can be offered in an upper inner quadrant defect. The second option that we were considering was mastectomy. So mastectomy could either be skin sparing or nipple areola sparing. We can also give reconstructive options in patient undergoing mastectomy. And what all these reconstruction options be? One would be implant. Second would be flap based. And third would be hybrid, which is implant plus flap. So implant is silicone implants that we are talking about. In flap, we can go with a deep inferior epigastric artery perforator flap, which is a free flap, or we can go with a pedicle flap, that is a latissimus dorsi flap. We can also go for a tram flap, which is again a pedicle flap. It could both be a pedicle or a free flap. Hybrid would be used in patients with a very pendulous breast where both flap and implant are used together. So this completes the management of the primary, that is the breast. The second component was axilla. So how we are going to address the axilla in this situation? So initially it was CN2A to start with. Following NSAT, we are going to check for the response. So there would be two situations. One, that it turns out to YCN0, and second, that it remains YCN positive. That nodes are still positive even after giving neoadjuvant chemotherapy. So in patients having still node positive disease, we are going to offer axillary lymph node dissection, that is ALND, in which we are going to remove only level 1 and 2 axillary lymph node groups. If the patient turns out to be YCN0, the current criteria is to go again for ALND. But there is emerging evidence to go for SLNB and targeted axillary dissection as well. So SLNB is what we call a sentinel lymph node biopsy, and this TAD is also called as targeted axillary dissection, where we are going to remove the sentinel lymph nodes along with the targeted axillary lymph nodes. So what are these targeted axillary lymph nodes? As we have talked, as I have mentioned previously, that during the diagnostic workup, we did ultrasound of the axilla. So during ultrasound of the axilla, we take the biopsy from suspicious lymph node and we also clip these lymph nodes. In targeted axillary dissection, after chemotherapy, if there is a good response, we do the sentinel lymph node biopsy. We remove the sentinel lymph nodes along with these clipped lymph nodes. But the data for these two is still emerging, and for clinical purposes, we are going to go with axillary lymph node dissection only, even in either of the scenario, whether it is a node negative disease or a node positive disease. Just I wanted to tell you about that these are the emerging studies, or there are certain trials which favor targeted axillary dissection or sentinel lymph node biopsy. If somebody asks, is there a role of sentinel lymph node biopsy and how will you perform? Just for clinical purpose, I am telling you. So in this case, you have to use a dual tracer technique. You can't only use a single agent. That is, you have to use either ICG with technetium, ICG with methylene blue, but not a single method. That is not only ICG, not only methylene blue. The second thing would be you need to remove at least or more than 3 sentinel lymph nodes. So these are the two criteria that you must follow if you are performing sentinel lymph node biopsy. So we have discussed about the neoadjuvant therapy. We did the surgery for the primary and the axilla. Now the third thing that we are going to see is the adjuvant treatment. So in adjuvant treatment, we have two modalities. One is the radiation therapy. So since it was a T3 disease and a N2A disease to start with, these patients are going to require radiation therapy. So radiation therapy will be indicated for all breast cancer patients, where we are going to give whole breast RT along with regional nodal irradiation. And for patients who have undergone mastectomy, if ALND is performed and more than 4 axillary lymph nodes are there, in this scenario, even if this criteria doesn't fulfill, we are going to go ahead with regional nodal irradiation. So I'll remove this thing. Since it was a T3 disease, we are going, even in mastectomy patients, you have to address the regional nodal irradiation. More important than T3 was that it was an N2A disease to start with. See, always remember that even after chemotherapy, if this turn out to be YCN0, you cannot omit the regional nodal irradiation. This radiation protocols are established on the pre-anesthetic staging, not the post-anesthetic staging. So this completes the radiation therapy component. Talking about the adjuvant systemic therapy. Don't worry, I have a separate PDF in which we have explained all this thing in a very systematic manner. So in the adjuvant systemic therapy, it depends what molecular subtype the tumor was. If it is a luminal subtype and the patient is premenopausal, we advise them tamoxifen. That would be 20 mg OD for 10 years. If the patient is postmenopausal, we can advise them anastrozole or letrozole. The dose for letrozole would be 2.5 mg OD for 5 to 10 years. If it is a HER2 positive disease, one needs to complete trastuzumab course for at least 1 year. And if it was a TNBC disease, if there was a residual disease in the surgical specimen, I'm not talking about margin positive. We have removed the breast and still there is a tumor in the breast. There has been a new study called as the CRITEX trial, which shows that in these patients, triple negative breast cancer patient with a residual disease, there is a role of capecitabine. Capecitabine is a chemotherapy which is given orally. Okay. In TNBC, we also know that TNBC are usually associated with BRCA positive disease. If the patient turns out to be BRCA positive, there is a role of adjuvant olaparib. And in certain cases, we need to continue pembrolizumab as well. So this was for TNBC. So this completes our third component of the question, that is the treatment. We have started with diagnosis, workup, treatment, and the last part would be follow-up. So in follow-up, the first component would be surveillance. So how do you keep these patients under surveillance? So for the first 2 years, every 3 monthly, you perform a clinical examination plus annual, sorry, plus an annual mammogram. After 2 years, that is between 3 to 5 years, every 6 monthly clinical evaluation should be done along with an annual mammogram. And after 5 years, there should be an annual visit with an annual mammogram. Second thing that you should look after is the late effect monitoring. That is the effect of the treatment, especially the chemotherapy agents, because many of these drugs like trastuzumab, docetaxel, that is adriamycin, are cardiotoxic. So you need to look out for cardiotoxicity. Trastuzumab is known for dilated cardiomyopathy. You need to evaluate the bone health of the patient, and you need to look for lymphedema, because these patients are undergoing axillary lymph node dissection, so you need to look after lymphedema as well. Third important component would be psychosocial support, which is a very, very important component in managing breast cancer patients. So this completes the answer to your question, that was management of a CT3N2A disease, M0 disease. So if there are any questions, please do let me know. So I have a PDF in which I have given this answer in a more systematic manner, in a way that you can write. So what I've discussed today is how you should frame the question in your exam, because you are going to get a limited time. The paper is also lengthy, and plus you have got limited pages to write as well. So with systematic, and if you mention what all is important, I think then it would suffice, and there is no need to add any other information regarding anatomy of the breast or in detail about mammography. You just mention the important points. What is the clinical relevance, and how is it going to help you in reaching a diagnosis? What is its implication, the management of this patient? So be to the point and avoid unnecessary detail. Make your answer more systematic, and I think that will be helpful to you. So that's all.